morning, everyone. Welcome to this week's post-cabinet press briefing. I am Press Secretary Philomena Robertson. With me this morning, I have Honorable Emmalin, Pierre, Minister for Education, Human Resource Development, Religious Affairs and Information. Seated next to her, Honorable Pamela Moses, Minister with responsibility for tertiary education, skills development and education outreach. And to my far left, Senator the Honorable Norland Cox, the Minister for Youth Development, Sports, Culture and the Arts. This morning, we will begin with Senator Cox. He will be bringing us up to speed on plans for Grenada's upcoming celebration of independence or independence anniversary. Minister Cox, we'll get started with you this morning.
Thank you very much, Press Secretary. Let me take this opportunity to recognize my cabinet colleagues, Minister Pierre and Minister Moses, and also to the listening public and viewing public, a pleasant morning, and the media personnel who are here, quite in their numbers this morning. Today I want to commence with our 46th celebration of our national independence celebration. Of course, it's a wonderful time of the year when we get an excellent opportunity to reflect on who we are as Grenadians, and how we have commenced and over the period of independence, being here as an independent nation. One of the things that the ministry we asking and we encouraging the public is, especially for younger persons, to ask them to continue to engage them, the senior ones, engage and educate them in being more patriotism and expressing our Grenadianism around this time of the year, not only just here locally, but also in the diaspora. Independence is a very important celebration for Grenada. It is something that we take very seriously as a government and as a people. And we just want to ensure that persons continue to support the independence activities and to support this celebration. This is a celebration of all our people, and it's a very important and historic one for that matter. So as regards to the activities that we have commencing from this week, we have on Saturday our annual island-wide motorcade. This is where we go around the island and engage persons in the various communities, bringing the celebration of independence to them. Persons will be playing in independence songs, displaying our colors, and celebrating the 46th anniversary throughout the various communities. We also have the Calypso competition taking place this weekend as well, this Saturday, at St. Patrick's at the bus terminus. This is an important event where our Calypsonians come and actually sing new pieces on Grenada, highlighting independence, the importance of independence to us. So this competition is a very important competition for us in terms of keeping the culture celebration within our celebration of the national independence. So we want to thank the artists who continue to partake in this celebration. We have 11 finalists. I think they'll be deep in 4 positions today. And so we're asking the various communities to come out and support. I'm looking forward to being there at that competition on Saturday as well. On Saturday, the 1st of February, we move to the Grenville car park, where we have the cultural extravaganza. Last year it was fantastic. A lot of artists, a lot of performances. It was a wonderful extravaganza we had in Grenville, and this year we expect no less but better than what happened last year. And so we want to thank Seydou, who has been working with the celebrations committee to ensure that these festivals this activity come off to be a successful one. On Sunday the 2nd, we have our ecumenical service at the Catholic Church in St. Paul's. For persons within that area, some area can come and celebrate with us as we give thanks and praise for yet another anniversary of our independence. I think it's important that we do that, and that setting is dedicated towards us being there to celebrate and to give thanks for 46 years as an independent nation. And we move forward to the 7th. On the 7th, which is our big rally, national holiday. We want everybody to come out. We are going to put on a fantastic display of performances from all our persons involved in the cultural sphere. We're going to have speeches and presentations from officials, government officials as well. We want all our persons to be there. Transportation is going to be provided from the various committees, so you'll get more information on that through our PR personnel. Buses will be available to take persons to and from the celebration on the 7th. On the 7th, we have one of the most important activities there as well, which is our Made in Grenada Expo. That is where we have everything Grenada on display. We want to thank the Ministry of Trade. They have been doing an excellent job in keeping this activity alive. They would have taken this Made in Grenada Expo to a number of countries, not only for independence, but we'd have taken it to other countries, and I want to commend them for this important initiative. On February the 9th, the Prime Minister's luncheon for senior citizens and the elderly persons, that is going to take place at the Grenada Trade Center on Sunday the 9th. Also, this year, the first year, Prime Minister has extended this luncheon to Carriacou. So Carriacou will have the pleasure of the Prime Minister at a luncheon with the elderly and senior citizens in Carriacou as well this year. They're still working on details on the date for that event, but that event is going to happen. So these are the main activities for independence. There are a number of other activities within the schools. We have sports events going on. The Governor General also will be hosting a ceremony, or award ceremony, that will take place on the 6th. And that's National Colors Day as well. So please stay tuned as we continue to update you on those events for our 46th celebration of independence. Also, we are sharing all this information with our diaspora community, so they will be celebrating too as well. I think Toronto will be celebrating on the 8th. New York will also be celebrating on the 8th of February, sorry. My mistake. The 8th is already gone for January. Just to highlight, there are a number of other activities that is taking place on island outside of the independence celebration, but it's very important for Grenada and for the country at this time. We have the annual Billfish tournament will be taking place from the 26th to the 30th of January. We have St. Mark's. We have the annual food festival, that will be on the 25th. That is this Saturday. Also, Westerhall Walkboat Regatta will be from the 1st to the 2nd of February on Grandans Beach. That's a very important activity. I wouldn't want to miss that one. Mount Morris, they're having a breakfast on the 26th, breakfast in Mount Morris, the community of Mount Morris. On Wednesday the 5th, the launch of the food-based dietary guidelines, the Grenada Food and National Council. They'll be launching this at the Botanical Gardens here on the 5th of February. And on Sunday the 9th, St. Paul's have their annual Independence Extravaganza. Last year it was a wonderful extravaganza, and so this year they're putting that on again. So we want to thank the St. Paul's community for doing this. So as regards to independence, this is all the updates that we have for now. I want to quickly move over to sports, and just to inform, sometime back here at post-cabinet briefing and also at Senate, we did make mention of the ministry working on the important policy, or national policy on sports and physical activity. We are happy to announce that the final draft is ready, and during the course of this week, this document will be made available to the various associations and also the public. It will be placed on our Facebook page and also on the ministry government website, so persons can have an opportunity to engage and to provide feedback to us. One of the reasons we want everybody, all Grenadians, to partake in this important document, to give feedback on this important document. The view is that for the next month or so, we'll be expecting feedback, and then with the view of having Cabinet approved the policy between now and April 30th to have that document formally approved and for to start to implement thereafter. It is important to note that the implementation attachment is also included in that policy document as well. Just to run back to independence, I think I left out a very important activity on independence. We have a national wear. Sometime we have been working on that, a national wear for both male and female. The Cultural Foundation have been working on this quite for some time, and for independence, 5 designs will be unveiled for independence, and thereafter those designs will be subjected to public voting methodology for a final selection. So you'll hear more on this development going forward. There's been a lot of call that when persons go out in the diaspora to represent Grenada, we do not have a national way. And so the Ministry of Culture, together with the Foundation, we have been working on this to finally have a national way for Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Matlick. So when you go out and represent, you can have our national way. So you'll hear more about this going forward. And just one last thing on sports. We want to, again, welcome the Canadian National Athletics team. They are here training in Grenada. They'll be here up to the 30th of January with Coach Glenroy Gilbert. We want to thank them for choosing Grenada for doing their training. And we welcome them, and they're welcome to come back anytime. We wish them all the best as they continue to prepare for the 2020 Olympics later on this summer. So this is all from the Ministry of Youth Development, Sports, Culture, and the Arts. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Senator Cox. We move immediately to Honorable Pamela Moses, who has an update for us on matters within her area of responsibility in the ministry.
Okay, good morning all, and special morning to our colleagues, my colleagues here, Press Secretary, media persons, and the listening public. Today I'll be sharing some updates with you in the area of scholarships. Very important for our young people and for all Grenadians who are aspiring to improve themselves. And we are pleased to announce that St. George's University and the Government of Grenada have a continuing partnership that really has been benefiting the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Matlick. And that has been increasing more and more. We're seeing the benefits. As most of you may be aware, St. George's University contributes approximately 25% of our gross domestic product. And in addition to the tax breaks and the concessions that our government give to the university is able to provide scholarships to Grenadians as part of the agreement. Tuition fee-free scholarships have been awarded on an annual basis to Grenadians who wish to pursue studies in various fields at the university. And as a result of our agreement, every year a total of 60 arts and sciences scholarships in the area of arts and sciences are awarded each year, as well as 17 medical scholarships, 5 pre-medicine scholarships, 1 veterinary, and 1 Masters of Public Health. Those are awarded every year as part of the agreement. Now, there are 2 entry points for the undergraduate bachelor's program at SGU, and that would be the January semester and the August semester. Now, in January every year, 30 scholarships are awarded in Bachelors of Arts. The same is done in August, 30 scholarships. So that leaves a total of 60 in the area of arts and sciences. The others remain the same, 17 medicine, 5 pre-medicine, 1 each for veterinary and masters in public health. Now, due to an increase in enrollment at the university, the Government of Grenada and St. George's University are very happy to announce this morning an increase of scholarships for January 2020 semester. In the area of arts and science undergraduate, we have been able to provide an additional 19 scholarships for this semester, January 2020. An increase of 5 scholarships in the area of medicine, and an increase of 2 scholarships in the area of veterinary medicine. So 19 arts and science increase, 5 medicine, and 2 veterinary medicine. Now, since January 2016, 10 full-time scholarships have been removed or reserved from the arts and science quota for an associate degree in nursing at SGU. But for this semester, we have increased it to 12. And so for this semester, we have 12 arts and science scholarship in the area of nursing. As you know very well, this is really a great area of need, and we have to train additional nurses in that area. We are also pleased to announce that this year, the nursing program at SGU has been upgraded from an associate degree to an undergraduate degree or bachelor level degree. Now, based on the established policy between our country and the university, it is standard procedure that the 5 students who receive pre-medicine scholarships, those that are given on an annual basis, 5 every year, are automatically allowed to promote into the medical program. That is, once they satisfy the academic requirements as defined by the medical school. So this is a standard procedure. So once one gets a pre-medicine scholarship, one automatically moves into medicine once qualified. I want to share with you now the value of the scholarships for this semester only from St. George's University and in conjunction with, of course, Government of Grenada. In the area of arts and sciences, we move from 30 to 49 scholarships, and this includes the 12 nursing as well. So 49 in the area of arts and science, including nursing. Now, nursing is a 3-year program. The other areas in arts and science, those are 4-year programs. The value of these 49 scholarships to the people of Grenada is EC $12 million, value of $12 million. The 5 pre-medicine has a duration of 1 year each for each student, and the value there is EC $320,000. The 17 medicine scholarships, each has a duration of 4 years. The value is 12.3 million EC dollars. The veterinary scholarships has been increased to 3. It's a 4-year degree program, 4-year medical degree program, veterinary medicine. It has a value of 1.5 million EC dollars. So we have a total award of scholarship for this semester only of 26 million EC dollars from the St. George's University. And in the second semester for the year, August 2020, there'll be additional scholarships in the area of arts and sciences. I just want to share with you some information on the bond. Basically, if the scholarship lasts 4 years, you add 1 more year to it, and that is the total bond. So for nursing, if one gets a nursing scholarship, one would have to serve 4 years bond, because the length of the training is actually 3 years. The other arts and science areas, their duration is 4 years, so the bonds would be 5 years. In the area of medicine, those who serve in the area of medicine, their course is 4 years long, and so their bond, they would sign a bond to serve their country for 5 years after completing their studies. Veterinary medicine is the same 5 years. Pre-medicine, however, is 2 years because it's a 1-year long course. We are very pleased with our relationship with the St. George's University, and the increased enrollment speaks well to what is happening in our country. It means that folks have faith, and folks are very happy throughout the world with the state of our country, the climate that we have here, and as such, we of course have increased enrollment. But of course, we know that great things are going on at the St. George's University. It is one of the very top medical schools in the world. I want to share with you now on scholarships from China. We have had 10 scholarships awarded so far for the 2020 January semester in very, very critical areas for our Tri-Island state. Those areas are agronomy, primary education, physical therapy, but the main critical areas for our country right now, areas of greatest need, is in the areas of engineering. And so of the 10 scholarships, we have 2 persons being awarded scholarships to study civil engineering in China. 1 person being awarded to study power and energy engineering. Another person was awarded to study chemical engineering. And still, another person was awarded environmental engineering. And the final person to make up the 10 scholarships was awarded environmental and ecological engineering, another different area. We are aware that, some projects didn't go off on time, and some projects may have been delayed, major projects for our country. And really it is because, of the need for engineers. We were fortunate and we were able to get some engineers that would help our government speed up projects and so contribute to the infrastructural development of our country. And so as we sit here as a government, we want to say to the People's Republic of China that we are really, really grateful for all that they have done, particularly in this scene to this area of need for us. And I just want to end by letting you know that the value of these 10 scholarships for a 5-year period of study in China is EC $3 million. And I just want to thank all of our stakeholders out there who contribute year after year to the development of our people, to the growth of our people. We thank you and we will be forever grateful. And we just want to say to all the young people who are going out there to represent Grenada, to remind you that you represent a wonderful country, whether it is here at SGU or it is abroad in China so far. Just keep that in mind. Make us proud, and we expect when you come back to your country that you would serve with great honor and great dignity, as we are known to do as Grenadians. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Minister Moses. Certainly good news on the education front. Education empowers, and therefore with an increasing number of scholarships, that says that more and more of us as Grenadians are being empowered. Minister Pierre, you're also on the education front. I mean, with news like that, there's... but I'm sure that you have some other developments to update us on this morning.
So thank you very much, Madam Press Secretary, and let me recognize again my colleagues at the head table, and of course members of the media who are here this morning. It's such a wonderful opportunity to see you so early in the new year. I wish you all the best in your various responsibilities. Well, not just various responsibilities, but your very important responsibility to inform and to educate our general public, and to do so to the best of your ability. Let me also use the opportunity to recognize and to greet members of the public who are viewing or listening this morning. Before I deal with the substantive matters before me, I want to just join with Minister Moses to acknowledge the significant contribution that this government is making in the area of education through scholarships. I listened and I thought to myself, it's unfortunate that our culture does not allow us to allow certain things like these to go viral. And maybe it would be one of those times that we would be different when we allow news like this to go viral. And so I challenged the media this morning. What this government has done, what we continue to do, we need to ensure that our public is aware and that we continue to promote education at the tertiary level. I am looking at the figure, one university, we're talking about $26 million. And that is supposed to be headline news. I'm not sure what's going to make it this evening, but that is supposed to be headline news. What that tells me is that when you look at the number of students in Grenada, young people, who are afforded an opportunity that they may have never had it not been for the government of Grenada, it tells me that this is something that we need to continue to do. So the number of doctors we have in our system who receive the scholarship through this government, we have to ask ourselves how many of their parents would have been able to sponsor them to go off on a medical scholarship. We just heard the cost per person for a medical scholarship. And so what this tells me is that we should not take this lightly. This should be headline news. The second thing that came to my attention and came back to me was a student who came to me about a week ago and said to me that she got a scholarship from St. George's University and she's seeking a small amount to assist in another area. And I had to spend some time to educate that this was not a scholarship from the St. George's University. This was a scholarship from the government of Grenada through a partnership with St. George's University. And it's important that we know this, because the scholarship in that question was a scholarship that that young lady received because of that arrangement where government says to St. George's University, the monies that you are going to give us in cash, we would want you to hold that. Do not give us in cash. Do not pay us for concession on all of those equipment and supplies that you are bringing in. Hold these monies. And we are committing these monies to the students of Grenada, Carriacou, and Peter Martinique. That is the arrangement with St. George's University. And because of this arrangement, so many ordinary students are able to access an education at that level. And I really do trust that more of our students would come forward. We've seen increased numbers, and we want to encourage more of our students to come forward. But the other critical thing that we ought to note from this, and Minister said it, the influx of students at St. George's University. If you go down that side, for those of you who travel that side, you would notice that you hardly ever pass and not see construction work taking place at SGU. Expansion. Now, no business would expand if business is not doing well. And no business will do well if the economic climate is not well. And so this government continues on the path that it's on, because we believe that we have to empower, we have to facilitate, we have to create the enabling conditions so that more businesses can continue to do well here in Grenada. There are options. There are other places, and it probably could be named something else besides St. George's University, but it continues to remain here because we continue to facilitate and to support. That being said, I want to this morning extend warmest greetings for the new year to all persons in the education fraternity. And of course, not just Happy New Year, but I also want to extend best wishes for all of those who are involved in teaching and learning throughout the state, Grenada, Carriacou, and Peter Martinique. This morning, I want to touch on 4 items that I'm sure members of the media may have questions to, and I probably would want to answer them before you ask me. And that surrounds the banning of sodas and processed snacks in schools, the engaging in extra work or other work by teachers, the status of work to rule from a government perspective and the relationship between the government of Grenada and the Grenada Union of Teachers. And I see all smiles because I'm making your job easier this morning. So I want to start on the subject of the banning of sodas in our schools. Now, quite obviously, this is not a decision that we expected everybody to be happy about, or we expected everybody to applaud the government on. I was really moved when I saw the level of traction that this decision got on a regional level. And most of you saw the very positive articles coming out from the region. Locally, we've had many persons supporting and encouraging this. But I want to make one thing really clear, and that is the why. Why did the government, after so many years, decide that it is going to ban sodas and processed snacks in schools? And the reason is just simply concern for Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique, and the people of our country as it relates to their health. I'm not sure if you've been following, but it is a known fact that a number of our students are coming down with chronic illnesses. A number of students, very young, diagnosed with diabetes, hypertension. And we can decide, A, that we are going to attempt to do something about this, or we can decide, B, that we're not going to do anything. We have decided that we will do something. So in addition to education, we are going to take some decision that says that we are not just telling you to eat healthy. Because if you follow the curriculum, the HFLE curriculum, for example, part of that, a very significant part of that has to do with healthy lifestyles, what you eat, your rest, your exercise. Now, it is one thing to tell a child that you should eat healthy, you should stay away from certain snacks, and it's another thing to sell it to the same student. So at 8 o'clock, you tell me, don't eat junk, and then at 10:30, you sell junk to me. Now, this is a serious inconsistency that, to me, is almost a crime. Therefore, we cannot continue to operate like this. If a parent chooses to give certain foods to their children, we do not have anything that prevents us from allowing that parent to do so. But we are saying the responsibility to manage the education system, we have a responsibility to ensure that we are feeding our children right. That is why we have had persons in our school system for years monitoring what we cook in schools. And we are going to up that as well, because we have to ensure across the board that we are feeding more healthy food to our students. So some schools would tell you that when we started to introduce certain things, callaloo and pumpkin and so on, some students would say, we don't eat that at home, we don't like that. And some schools would tell you they have seen significant changes as it relates to the appetite of students for certain things. So we have to do what we have to do in that regard. Everybody may not be happy about it, but I believe at the end of the day, Grenada would be better off. We would have a healthier workforce. Less people would be calling in sick. Maybe not in my time, but we would see the fruits of that. The second thing that we have done is to inform principals that they ought to work not just with the staff at the school kitchens, not just with the staff at school, but with vendors on school compound. We do not have control over vendors outside of the school compound. But in schools where vendors are allowed, as a matter of fact, the Education Act, I believe, says that a vendor must have a permit to operate. So if we are working to rule, that is a rule that we ought to enforce. That a vendor on the school compound must be authorized by the principal, and the principal must be satisfied with what this vendor is supplying to students. So that too, we intend to work with our principals so that they can in turn work with our vendors to ensure that we phase out a lot of these things that we provide to our students. The other thing about snacks, and most of you have children, And you ask yourself, what happens to your daughter, 5 years old, after you serve her a bar of chocolate? I say no more on this. I'm sure we've all had the experience of trying to calm a 5-year-old after having a bar of chocolate. The other thing that the ministry intends to do in the near future is to review and revisit physical education teachers in our primary school. We have to lead by example, and physical education teachers in primary school is not just about winning sports and excelling in sports, it's also about healthy lifestyle. They would tell you when they went to study how critical that was as it relates to the composition of their studies. That being said, I close this subject by saying I want to commend and congratulate a number of our schools. If you pass near to some of our schools, and unfortunately, just one school is coming to mind, and that is St. Patrick's Anglican, Principal Wilma Alexander. One of the principals who I know is extremely passionate about what children are served in schools. So you pass by some schools and you will see a billboard from the Grenada Food and Nutrition Council declaring that school to be a healthy zone as it relates to what children are fed. And so I want to congratulate all of the schools that participated in the pilot project and have done so very well. That is a model, I believe, not just for here in Grenada, but I believe the entire world. The second issue I want to bring to your attention is a circular that was sent to schools that has to do with teachers engaging in extra work or additional work apart from what they were contracted to do. I want to also say to you that along with that circular, a number of other circulars have been going to schools. And that is because last year, in discussion with management, in discussion with the unions, we have said 2020 will be the year of accountability and higher standards in the education system. I believe the union understands why this is so important, because the union, sometime in 2018, towards the end of 2018 or very early in 2019, presented the Ministry of Education through the minister a copy of a draft code of ethics for teachers. And that presentation was made so that the Ministry of Education can review the draft code of ethics for teachers and to find a way to work together with the union, that was a request of the union, to find ways to ensure that we can implement that code of ethics to improve the standards in the education system. In other words, the union was saying to the ministry, we are concerned about the standards in the education system. If there was a special medal to be awarded to unions for seeking the interests of the development of the education sector, I will give it to the Grenada Union of Teachers. What I've seen over the past couple months in engaging the union is a union that understands, under the new executive, that we ought to fight for the benefits of teachers. That's a given responsibility. But while we do that, we must also fight to ensure that we lift the standards of the education system. I commend them, I applaud them. It takes a lot to impress me. I'm extremely impressed that the union has taken that approach. Therefore, the ministry circulated, for internal purposes, a document which said involvement in private work. I would not have addressed this matter here this morning, and it was never my intention to address it. And that is because it was an internal document for internal purposes. Reason being to remind persons of what is supposed to happen. Now, for maybe all things work for good, because it has been shared publicly, which now gives me an opportunity to explain publicly. And I want to refer to the very first paragraph of that circular. It has been brought to the attention of the Ministry of Education that a number of teachers are engaging or seeking to undertake work during or outside of normal working hours without proper authorization. Now, I believe 90% of the people commenting on this have not seen it, unfortunately. So now I had the opportunity to share with you the opening paragraph. I've read this about 3 times, maybe even 4. And I've been searching for at least one place in this circular where it says a teacher cannot engage in extra work. I've said this to the union, I've said it to the last school I attended, visited, where I had the opportunity to speak to the staff. The policy of this government has been consistent and will remain that way. We have absolutely no problem with any public officer who decides that they want to engage in additional work to have an additional source of income. The consistency remains that this government has said that the laws of Grenada, the rules that govern, says that there must be authorization, which means, my English cannot be so bad, which means that you can do it, but you must be authorized to do it. That's the first thing. And the second thing being, very important, that it cannot be in conflict with what you do for the government of Grenada, which tells me that maybe the people who drafted this rule thought of something very important, which is, if every person was to interpret conflict of interest on their own, we would have chaos and we would have a disaster. So if every teacher decides for themselves what is a conflict of interest, I'm telling you, we would not be able to manage the system. Which is why I think somebody in wisdom decided that the Public Service Commission must decide what is a conflict of interest. Makes a lot of sense to me. So we are saying a teacher can do 5 additional jobs if they can. In the States, people juggle 3 and 4 jobs. That's fine, no problem. Let's do that. But let us ensure that it is not conflicting with your job as a teacher. So let's get a little bit practical. Now, if you say to me as a teacher that you want to take a job as a security officer at nights, I would say to you, which is not my place, but I would advise you, that this might be a challenge for you and for the students, because I'm not sure that you'll be able to deliver at your best at 8 o'clock in the morning until 2 p.m. So maybe something different. But the question is, why are we reminding teachers? Increasing numbers of reports. Principals, teachers, colleagues are concerned. The public is also concerned in many cases. So practically, a teacher who owns a bus, and I'm giving you now some real-life examples, the challenges that we face with the responsibility of managing the education sector. A teacher who has a bus, excellent, no problem. You can buy 2 or 3 if you can afford it. But we are saying it is wrong and it cannot be accommodated for a teacher at 8:30 to be making his last trip in the morning while the class does not have a teacher, while the students are running all over the room because there's nobody else to help supervise that class. We are also saying that it cannot be acceptable that at 2 o'clock you leave the school, leaving the students unattended because you want to catch the first trip of workers coming off at 4 o'clock. Shouldn't that be a concern for everybody? We are also saying that a teacher who chooses to build a fowl farm or chicken farm and probably raise 500 chickens, excellent, great, wonderful. But we are saying it is advisable that you probably have people who can perform the duties during the period that you are contracted to be a teacher. So when a teacher writes to you asking for a day off to slaughter chickens, then you start wondering what happens to your children during the day that he's off slaughtering chickens. When a teacher writes to you for permission to operate a private after-school program in a school, when that teacher has been on sick leave for months, and we have not been able to adequately replace that teacher, and so your children are without a teacher for months. Question is, how can we allow you and be comfortable with you offering a service like that when you're not able to offer it and you're paid to offer it? Now, this circular has only one intention: to address the issues that we face in our education system. And I believe the union, from what I've seen over the past couple months, understand some of the challenges that we face. This challenge is not just about people going off to work. It's also about people taking leave within the system. And we have brought this to the attention of the union. Now, absolutely nothing is wrong with a teacher being on sick leave for 3 years. Nothing. If you're sick, you're just sick. You can't function. But as a government, we have to ask ourselves, is it right for the Ministry of Education to pay a teacher full pay while they're on leave for 3 years? And in addition to that, to pay another teacher to replace that person? You tell me what happens when you go on sick leave for 1 month. These are some of the challenges that we face in the education system. And unless we write and we take action, our children will continue to suffer. And that is why we have a responsibility to manage the education system. There are teachers who are working exceptionally hard. There are teachers who are sacrificing for their students. But I say to you, if I say to you this morning that this is every teacher in our system, I will be telling you a lie. We have some serious challenges that we must deal with. The next issue I want to raise this morning is the subject of work to rule. And in saying this, I want to reiterate what I've said before. The Ministry of Education enjoys, and we happily enjoy this, an excellent working relationship with the Grenada Union of Teachers. And that does not say that we do not disagree with things. That does not say that the union is still not on work to rule. We have said to the union, and I'm very happy that they understand this, that despite our differences, we have children that we have to serve. We have issues we have to address. So while we're on work to rule, while we're on strike, while we're on go slow, whatever it is, we have to continue conversations as it relates to the education system. So we look at benefits for teachers, and we continue to do so. When the union announced work to rule, I am convinced that most teachers in Grenada did not understand what work to rule means. In layman's terms, I would describe work to rule as nothing less, nothing more. In other words, everything that my contract says, that the law that governs my contract says I must do. That is why we had chaos. Because people were sitting in staff rooms saying they're on work to rule. People were not going to school because they were on work to rule. People were leaving school early because they were on work to rule. And that is why, again, I applaud the Grenada Union of Teachers, because they have sought to take action to explain to members what is it that they mean when they say work to rule. So I refer to a correspondence to teachers from the Grenada Union of Teachers. It was after this move by government that the union decided to enforce a strict work to rule. And I'm happy that the union is mature enough not to have stopped after work to rule. It went on to say, work to rule policy guided by Section 128 of the Education Act, a very responsible union that understands we're not just on work to rule, we are still guided by the laws of Grenada. Section 128, Section 127, all of that around there, defines a lot of what a teacher is expected to do. But not just that, a teacher is also guided by an official appointment letter from the Ministry of Education. And I'll just read item A and item F, which follows after the statement, the following are the stipulated conditions of your temporary appointment. So this is a sample of a letter for the appointment of a temporary teacher. A, to teach diligently and effectively the course of study prescribed for the class to which you are assigned, and all of the others about getting to work before the students start the days and all of that. F says, to perform any additional duties, including extracurricular activities, which may, from time to time, be assigned by the principal and the education officer. Now, let us get something clear this morning. Extracurricular activity does not refer to sports. Sports is defined in the law of Grenada as a co-curricular activity, meaning it's part directly of the education of our students. So activities there which can be seen as practical activities, they are all part of what is required by the Act of Grenada. So we understand the union to say that we are on work to rule, but we are guided by the Education Act. Let me share with you that the Ministry of Education finds only one difference between the union's interpretation of work to rule and the Ministry of Education's interpretation, just one. And this has not been the original situation. So I commend the union for clarifying to members what is work to rule. So now we are down to only one issue as it relates to work to rule that we differ on. And that one item refers to, I believe it's Section 18 of the laws of Grenada that relates to education, the Education Act. And that section says that a teacher, or student, is answerable to a teacher during school hours and after school hours. Anytime during school hours and after school hours while they are engaged in assigned activities. Now, I have used common sense to interpret that, which is that a student is answerable or accountable, I believe is the actual word used in the law, to a teacher while they are in school during the day. And if that teacher takes a student outside of school, after school hours, as the law says, the student must be accountable to the teacher. So that to me says that the law anticipated that there will be activities during school hours and there will be activities after school hours. Now that interpretation happens to be the same interpretation given by the Attorney General to the government of Grenada to interpret Section 18 of the Education Act. The union has said that we do not believe that this is referring to activities after school hours. And the truth is, where we are in discussion with the union, we have not debated this issue. We have not debated this. What we have discussed is how do we ensure that we get nothing less as it relates to the laws of Grenada and the rules that governs the education system. So the government has said, and the union has said this, let me deal with what the union said. The union said, we did not work for 9 days in most cases. And the government did not pay us for those 9 days. And we are entitled to have that back. And we have attempted to explain this to the union, that we can only work with what is contained in the laws of Grenada when it comes to industrial action. So the law speaks about red arm ban. It speaks about go slow. It speaks about strike. Nowhere contained is rest and reflection. And the government has been consistent. We cannot honor rest and reflection as an industrial action. It exists nowhere. And to date, we have not been able to find anywhere, nor has the union been able to present us with anything that justifies rest and reflection. Therefore, the government remains consistent that the government has no obligation to refund any monies to any teacher who said that I was on rest and reflection. We continue to ask, what is this? That being the case, the Ministry of Education and the government of Grenada, by extension, understands the very importance of a good relationship with the union, especially that we are attempting jointly to restore some sense of order in some areas in the education system, that we are attempting to lift the standard of the education system together. This year, the union said, Minister, we normally have courses for teachers during the August vacation. The ministry normally have courses. Why can't we just come together and work together? By all means, why not? And we did that in August. We are saying we have a responsibility to work together to build the education system. And in that regard, the government of Grenada, through the Ministry of Education and the union, has been discussing how is it can we put ourselves in a position where we put ourselves ahead of, putting work to rule behind us and moving on. We have been in some serious discussions over the last few months, and I believe we are closer to the end than we are to the beginning of this. We continue to dialogue. I'm not going to say at this stage what the content of those discussions happen to be, but what I say to you is that we have made significant progress working together with the union, and I look forward very soon to a total resolution of this matter, understanding that we are consistent, that we did not deduct pay that we are supposed to return on the grounds that the union was on industrial action during that period.
Thank you very much, Minister Pierre. Well, we have exhausted a full hour on the opening statements, but I'll allow a couple of questions still if you do have questions to ask. So do we have any questions this morning? The usual protocol applies. Identify yourself and your media house before asking your question.
Good morning. Rachel Bain, MTV. My question is to Minister Cox, is with regards to Carriacou Carnival. We saw Digicel pulling out as its main sponsors. What plans does the government have now with regards to that?
As regards to that particular information, it is not entirely correct. I myself had some discussions with Digicel 2 weeks ago, and they have had some challenges. They were looking to refocus their sponsorship with Carriacou Carnival, and so they're in discussions because the contract has come to, the 3-year contract has come to an end. As recently as this morning, I've been in discussion with persons Carriacou on the committee, and they are in discussions with Digicel to see how they can re-engage. So that I know is where we are. So I believe, based on the discussion that I had with the CEO, they are not adverse towards engaging back Carriacou from a sponsorship standpoint.
Okay, so is Carriacou Carnival without a main sponsor presently?
Well, I wouldn't say no, because of course, in terms of sponsor from the corporate side, there are discussions ongoing, but of course the government of Grenada is a sponsor and has been the main sponsor over the past decade or so. While we allow the corporate entity to be featured, most of the financial input has been coming from government. As government, we don't trump and go and say the government agreed that power soca. We wouldn't do that. But we allow the corporate citizens to take the lead in that regard. And so government is there, but we are working with corporate citizens to ensure that they come and enjoy and be part of that experience. So that is what we try to do. We create the enabling environment for our corporate community to thrive through our festivals.
Let's pass the floor, Rachel. Play nice.
Rena Pierre, GBN. Minister Pierre, I have a couple questions for you, but I'm hoping that I'll be able to ask you all of them. The first one is regarding the ebook. I know that it's supposed to be launched sometime soon. Could you speak to that a bit? The other one is regarding school feeding. Outline. Just tell us a little bit more about the program.
Let's stop at two, Rena, for now, please.
I would have been willing to accommodate Rena because my response to those two is that we will be having a special press briefing where we'll be addressing issues of ebooks and school feeding, school books, all of those issues, special education. So I'm sure you'll be there very soon.
So in that case, you get one more.
The other one is the question as it relates to the sodas. Was an official letter sent out to all the schools? Because in going to visiting some of them just to see how the process is going, they're saying that they didn't get an official. So just wanted to know.
Right. So not just official letter. All schools now should have an official communication. But besides that, it's probably more than a year that the document guiding this action, which is the policy on nutrition, every school should have had that contained in that. And schools were informed, cabinet has approved, we are implementing. So more than a year ago, schools were alerted of this. So it's not just the letter which they now have, but it's also the policy which guides.
Christiane Mitchell, GIS. Minister Cox, can you provide an update about Intercall 2020?
I'm so happy that you asked that question. I will gladly defer to the Minister for Education. As you know, Intercall is really run by the schools, by education, and Ministry of Sports. We provide technical support. So I'll give way to Minister Pierre on that question.
Okay, so Intercall 2020, we are looking forward to Intercall 2020. I've been in communication with the head of the Principal Association, and we're not just looking forward to Intercall 2020, but we also had agreement from the Principal Association that they're going to work with the Ministry on the zonal sports. If you recall, many years ago, the Principal Association ran the zonal sports. And last year we brought that back because it did not happen for a number of years. And I was informed because of the resources, because of the challenges of Intercall itself, they discontinued that. But we have had word that, generally speaking, the Principal Association does not have any difficulty working with Ministry of Education, Ministry of Sports, and Principal Association for the zonal sports, which we think has benefits. As it relates to Intercall, we continue to work. As you recognize, a number of schools have started their heats and their cross-country and all other activities leading up to sports, and I'm looking forward to that.
Minister Pierre, can you provide an update on Bishop's College? Please, thanks.
Right. So I'm only responding to Bishop's College because it's a critical situation. I did say we intend to call a special press conference on general matters of education. As you know, Bishop's College has been significantly delayed for a number of reasons, and I always refer to the last delay, which we agreed jointly with the school that we were going to proceed with the delay because we knew if we're going to expand and increase the cost, there was going to be a delay. So that last delay that we spoke of publicly was because we expanded and we increased almost twice time what the original cost was. That being done, we got no objection from the bank, which is the Caribbean Development Bank, but the bank had a challenge, which we raised considering that when that figure went up so high, it would have blocked off local contractors from applying for that project because of the quantity, right? As you know, the bank have their rules as it relates to quotas and so on. And the bank did say to us, this is not a first case. We are quite prepared to work with the government of Grenada on this. So they have done all of the internal works, and we did receive no objection from the bank. And as far as I'm aware, the bids were open. Contractors have been coming to obtain documents. And what we're waiting now really is for that final contractor to be awarded the contract so that the work can start. And we anticipate that that would be soon. And we really look forward to the expansion and the development of Bishop's College. While I'm at that, let me say that there are some other schools in question, critical. I won't address those this morning since you did not ask, but be aware that we have some other schools, major projects that we will speak to in the near future.
I have two questions, but I'm going to ask them in one. My question is for Minister Moses. You spoke of a bond for scholarship awardees, right? And I remember some time ago, government had an issue where people, after completing their studies, did not adhere to their bond. What measures the government put in place to ensure that we don't have a reoccurrence? And can you give us an update on the situation with regards to the UWI campus that was supposed to be set up in Hope, St. Andrew? Thank you.
Okay, in relation to the bonding, yes, that has been an area of challenge for our government. There are cases where persons have not served their bond. What I can say to you now, particularly for the area of medicine, the Ministry of Health is in the process of putting together a new policy document that would enable us to reach the persons wherever they are. All right? I cannot say more about it, but I just give you a little idea of to what direction they're actually taking. And just to say that the bond document is a legal document. Persons who sign that document have to understand that that document is approved by the Ministry of Legal Affairs, and it's in conjunction with them that that bond is made or created. And as such, failure to serve your bond when given a scholarship by the government is a legal matter. And we look forward to the completion of the policy document by the Ministry of Health, of course in conjunction with the Ministry of Education. But health would really be leading on this. Yes. And in relation to the open campus, University of the West Indies, I want to share with you that as late as July 2019, a team that was led by the open campus principal, Dr. Longsworth, visited Grenada, went to the site, did all the measurements, created their plans, and I would just like to say that we await feedback from them. And just to add that this is not mainly a government project. I think that's where the misunderstanding really lies. This is a University of the West Indies project. And as you know, Grenada is one of the best paying countries in the Caribbean to the University of the West Indies in terms of paying for economic costs and to paying for students, of Grenadian students who attend the university. We pay $516,000 per month to the University of the West Indies. But this project is an initiative by the university to expand. And as such, they are responsible for their own funding. What the government of Grenada has done many years ago is given the university 89 acres of land in Hope, St. Andrews. So that's government's contribution. And that's a role that government plays. Government gives land, government gives support in a lot of areas. But it's not government to make this project happen in a timely manner. This is led by the University of the West Indies. Yeah, of which, of course, our island is, is really part of. So, yeah, thank you.
Rena, you have one more? Okay, so you have another? Okay, go ahead.
Questions for both ministers.
All right, so 5 more minutes and then we wrap up. This is turning out to be an extremely long one, but it's a very important discussion.
Yes.
So once time permits the ministers, we can do another 5 minutes.
So for Minister Moses, could you give me a quick update as it relates to the 4 TAMCC campuses, if there's any? I know that a team came a while back and work's supposed to be done. And as it relates to TAMCC again, recently students had mental issue to the point where the police would have had to come to take them to bring them to the proper facility. Any comments as it relates to that?
Right. The first question in relation to the campuses and all the consultations that were held around the island at the 4 campuses. In relation to the 4 campuses, that consultation was headed by a team that is from the University of the West Indies. They call the Otter Lockjack team, and I think during this week we should have a completed document from them, of which we would share with the press. So I can assure you that we'll have a special press release, with all the recommendations on the way forward for TAMCC. As you're aware, there's a lot of issues that have to be addressed at the institution. And as a government, we look forward to making all the required changes that will help to uplift it into a premier institution. But however, we need professional guidance. And as such, we must await the recommendation by that consulting firm. So this week should be the deadline. We look forward to their recommendations, which we will share with you. And similarly, in this case with the young lady, the students, very unfortunate situation. We will update you as well very, very shortly regarding that. Yeah.
The question I have for you is relating to, you spoke earlier on relating to the teachers and their private jobs or other jobs that they'll be taking. While you would want to be able to give teachers permission to earn that extra money and to keep in line, what precautionary measures or measures that is going to be put in place to seem fair that they're able, so as it relates to a bus you said earlier on, what sort of measures would you put in place or the government is put in place to ensure that teachers are doesn't feel like they're being picked on or as it relates to having...
Not sure that I understand the picked on part, right? It's simple. You can do any job that you choose to do. Any job that you choose to do. It must not prevent you from being on work as a teacher during the hours that you're supposed to be there. And it must not be in such conflict that it affects your ability to perform as a teacher. The second thing is that the Ministry of Education does not authorize. The Public Service Commission authorizes through the Ministry of Education. Once those are taken care of, I don't think we have a problem. So it's as simple as that. Very, very simple. We seem to be making it a bit complicated, but it's very simple.
So, Minister Pierre, my question is with regards to the teachers. So the teachers who are found doing side job during their working hours, what measures are put in place, or should I say, what's the wrong word? What measures are put in place to deal with them as some form of punishment?
Well, the ministry don't punish. And I'm so happy that we don't, right? What I can tell you is this. Number one, there are different levels and layers of management. So I had a meeting with some principals yesterday, and I repeatedly use one word or two words, leadership and management. So if a teacher consistently engages in activities during school hours, the first level and layer of management is not the Public Service Commission. That must be the principal of the school. Now, as you go upwards, you have the Ministry of Education, where the principal now writes to say, I've used all possible measures to speak, to write, to all that I've done that did not work. And then the ministry now can intervene and decide we're going to speak to again, we're going to write again, we're going to do all that we can do. And then when the ministry is unable to manage this, then the ministry say to the Public Service Commission, look, we have done all that is required of us to manage this situation, and we cannot. So we leave disciplining to you. As in, what do we do next? How do we deal with this situation? So this is not, and let me say this. Now, we sometimes read things out of context, and sometimes we stretch it so far that we forget what the issue is. Now, in relation to this, let me say, every teacher in this sector in Grenada can tell you things that are unacceptable, things that we should not be doing. We have been talking and talking and talking. We have been writing and writing and writing. And now you know who is being blamed. Principals are saying, Ministry of Education, we tired send letters to you. Ministry of Education just put the letters on a shelf. Colleagues are saying, well, if this person is allowed to get away with this for all these years, why are you picking on me for this little thing, principal, that I'm doing? The point is, if you have to manage, you just have to manage, and we must manage at all levels of the system. So this is not about picking. We go over. I listened to a teacher disrespect an officer in the Ministry of Education, and I sat in my office, and I have to share those examples because sometimes we don't have a clue what's happening, and we comment and we comment and we comment without understanding. I sat in my office, doors down. I listened a teacher disrespect an officer in the ministry. An apology did come after. But I said to the officer, something must be wrong with you to sit there to listen to what I was hearing doors down the road. The point I'm making is we talk a lot. We encourage a lot. We remind a lot. We do a lot of that. Check the files. Sometimes you have to go beyond that. But even before going beyond that, we are still reminding before we take any actions.
Thank you very much. And on that note, we'll put a wrap on today's press briefing. I thank you so much for being here, members of the media. For those who were tuned in, thank you for joining us. Certainly a lot of food for thought. And as Minister said earlier, let's make it viral today that $26 million being invested in the education and scholarships for young persons in Grenada, empowerment of our young people. I'm Press Secretary Philomena Robertson. I'll see you next time.